Welcome Donald Farmer and Jessa Flux, two of the hardest working people in the independent filmmaking community, to the Grindcast. It's an honor to finally meet you guys face to face. I have to say you guys are an inspiration because when I see how much stuff you're constantly involved in, it makes me think I'm slacking off because you guys are, a part of a new indie revolution. So thank you for doing what you're doing, and it's exciting for you guys to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks. This question's it's for both of you guys. Here we go. Donald, how did you first become interested in exploitation, grindhouse, drive-in movies, and then Jessa?
Well, when I first started going to movies when I was about 4 or 5, my mother wouldn't let me go to horror movies, and but I was allowed to go to any movie with a giant monster. So the first live-action movie she took me to was Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, and any movie with a dragon like Jack the Giant Killer, Seven Faces of Dr. Leo, I could go to. But my introduction to grindhouse-type movies came in a very bizarre way. Since she wouldn't let me go to grindhouse movies and wouldn't even let me go to horror movies, she took me to some kiddie matinee once, and before the kiddie matinee began, they showed a preview to 2 grindhouse type movies. They showed the trailer to House of the Damned, and then a movie called The Stripper starring Joanne Woodward, from the future director of Patton, Franklin Schaefer, and Joanne Woodward before she became better known as Mrs. Paul Newman. So seeing this lurid trailer for The Stripper with Joanne Woodward with balloons all over her body that were being popped by these horny customers, and then watching the trailer for House of the Damned, which was, really scared the shit out of me when I was like 10 years old, because it had like a guy with no legs walking on his hands with a knife in his mouth, creeping up on a woman in bed, and had Richard Kiel long before he was Jaws in the James Bond movie as a freakish giant going around terrorizing people. So that really made me want even more. And then about the same time, I looked in the daily newspaper, and in the movie ads, I saw an ad for Herschel Gordon Lewis's Blood Feast. And so the combination of those two things sort of got me obsessed with sleazy grindhouse, and I was determined to see these movies one way or another, despite my parents' objections.
Awesome. Jessa, what's the earliest, craziest, weirdest movie maybe you saw on VHS, or something that your mom, that you were just like, oh my God, this is crazy?
Well, my mom is a big movie fan, so we would rent movies constantly, and she would basically let me pick out anything that I wanted just from the cover. And I really got into, I was just talking to somebody about this earlier today, which is kind of funny. I really got into Clockwork Orange at a really young age, and my mom had no idea what I was watching, and I would just continue to rent it over and over again. But then as I got a bit older, some friends brought over some VHSs that were Something Weird Video. Are you familiar with them? I'm sure. But they were just previews. We just watched the previews, and then as I was able to find some of those movies, I would check them out, as soon as I possibly could. And some of them were just absolutely freaking insane. But I definitely feel like I am more familiar with the genre now, being a part of it, though. Because you learn as you go, and people are like, well, check this out, because I'd like you to sort of have this energy in this character, so check out this flick or whatever. So that's kind of how I got into the whole thing.
What gave both of you the confidence to achieve your goals as a director, producer, actress? You're wanting to do this amazing thing, but how do you get from there to there and just go, fuck it, I'm gonna take this leap? And how do you do that?
Well, when I was, from as way back as I can remember, we always had a movie camera in my house because my mother was constantly making home movies. So I have no memory of ever living in a house that did not have a movie camera in it. I mean, I think from the time I was born, there were home movies of me. And so there came a point with this home movie camera that my mother was constantly shooting us. I decided that I would take the camera myself and try to make my own movies. So I did my first attempt when I was like 12 years old. And at the time, there was a very popular movie in theaters called In Cold Blood with Robert Blake. So me and my friends got together and we made a movie called In Hot Blood, which was just basically shots of me murdering all my friends. Yeah. And so that was my first attempt at making a movie. And then I didn't do anything else until when I was 19. And then when I was 19, I got into it again and I made a whole series of Super 8 short films, which are now available on Blu-ray from SRS Video. So you can go to YouTube and watch the trailer for them. It's called the Donald Farmer Collection Volume 1 and 2. And they've got all these Super 8 movies I made in the 70s, all collected. One of them was an out-and-out horror movie called The Summoned, about a horny incubus that goes around seducing women. And we had a really graphic autopsy scene where I went to the local butchers and got all these animal entrails that we could use for our autopsy scene. I hadn't wised up that you're really supposed to get somebody to make rubber parts so that it doesn't stink up the place. So we did it the very stinky way. I'll never do that again. And but yeah, I just made this whole series of movies. They weren't all horror movies. One of them was like a romantic drama about a spurned lover who kills his rival, and then one of them was a Western. And so they were all different types. But doing this whole series of Super 8 movies, got a lot of this stuff out of my system.
Cool. And Jessa, what was like sort of the first thing that you got into film-wise?
Well, the first thing that I got into film-wise is a movie that was like never released. It was quite some time ago. It was called The Hymnographer, but it was kind of a sexy scene, and I'm not mad that it wasn't released because I really went all in, literally. But the second time I was able to get like a part, it was just a very small part in Space Babes from Outer Space. They asked me to do a part where I'm basically like welcoming them back to a planet, and I'm topless, of course. And I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And then Donald asked me to be in Cannibal Hookers, and my friend Alice Winkler was already working on several like indie horror flicks, and I knew her we worked together, and so she would always tell me about her shoots, and I was like, I really want to see if I can even do it, like, because I'm actually like really shy until I get in front of a camera that's just like, I don't know, like I ham it up as soon as like you push record. I don't know what it is, but I didn't know that was possible for me, even though I had always wanted to be an actress growing up. Like I always really wanted to get into being on TV, and my family, weirdly enough, wanted me to be on TV too. Like they kind of like pressured me to be like a Disney kid. I mean, they're really proud of me now, obviously, but so it didn't really go that way. But I was also very shy until like I really came into my own. So I think everything happened exactly as it was supposed to and when it was supposed to. I remember there was a experience on the set of Cannibal Hookers during our first shoot, and I was looking into one of my co-stars' eyes, and there was like this very real moment. Like she was like my minion. I was like the queen cannibal hooker. Okay. So like, we locked eyes, and I just felt this like surge of like dopamine that really was fucking awesome. Like, excuse me. But like, I was like, I want that feeling all the time. So if there becomes another opportunity for me to do this again, because really it was just like a see if I could do it type thing. Like Donald asked me, he sent me several films of his. I checked them out. I was like, this looks great, and this looks fun. I really want to be a part of this, and I want to see like if I'm honestly just like able to like break out of my shell on camera and really like do the damn thing. And I was able to, and like I said, I just got that surge. It was definitely like a high that I had never experienced before, and it was fabulous. So I'm just running around chasing the dragon at this point in my life. Like I just like anytime like the script works for me, and the pay is right, like I am there. Like I really want to continue to do this for as long as people will have me. And yeah, it's honestly a dream come true, because like I said, I wanted to be a performer growing up, like, and I did dance. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I did like competitive dance all growing up. So it wasn't that I was ever afraid of hamming it up. It was just like speaking in front of people really kind of freaked me out. And I used to get really red in the face. So it was a more of a like, can I actually do this type of thing? And once I realized that I could, like you're gonna literally have to like, you're gonna have to like pry my cold dead hands off of the camera. Like I'm never gonna stop. So I'm here forever.
That's great. Hey, Donald, did you see her in Space Babes? Is that why you cast her in Cannibal Hookers?
No, I knew nothing about Space Babes until she told me about it. No, it's just that I'd been Facebook friends with Jessa for a couple of years. And so I had been following her on Facebook, and that's how I knew her. But yeah, I was totally naive about space, even though it starred a mutual friend of ours, Jason Crow. So I'd worked with him already. But yeah, I didn't even know anything about it until she told me about it.
All right, I got a bummer question, but I'm in the independent filmmaking business as well. I have a day job. I'm a caregiver. So this is the question. It's such a difficult business. Can you talk about the hardships of paying the bills, paying the bills? And was there ever a time when you were close to giving up? For both of
Well,
you.
I've always had a regular job, so I've never totally depended on movie money to get by because have always had a regular income, and so it's just like money I make from doing movies is just like icing on the cake.
Okay.
But I've never been in a situation where I had to make money from movies to pay my bills. I've always had regular jobs.
What is your day job, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm just like a promotions manager, and I've done a lot of real estate promotion and stuff like that, so it's really boring and tedious.
As he yawns. And Jessa.
Well, I'm always in a dire situation, I think, with money, because I do okay for myself. But you know, I have a bunch of different jobs, but I'm always doing the most. Like I'm always going out of town. I'm always trying to live life to the fullest because like I've been so close to death personally, like a handful of times. Like I've had a stroke before, like I've had pulmonary embolisms, and that stuff will really change you, and to the point where you just like you can't take anything with you, but the one thing that you can take as long as your memory will survive is, you know, experiences. So like I spend all my money like a crazy person, but like as far as, you know, it paying the bills, it's never really paid all of the bills. I like it whenever I make enough that I can put it up, you know, for a future situation, a future travel like experience that I can get to do, like anything like that. But I mean, I do hair, I do makeup. I do makeup for weddings and commercials and movie sets. Like I have a few makeup credits for that. And I'd like to do more of that, to be honest, just to stay on the set as much as possible because it's just so fun for me. But I also like I dance at a club, a topless club. I have an OnlyFans. I basically I'm making a little money like everywhere I possibly can. And I also you know, I do make pretty good money whenever I'm acting as well because I'm really a stickler for asking for your worth. Like for example, like I have a lot of followers on my socials and stuff. So if I do a movie, it's going to bring more attention to the movie because of that. And so I charge based on that basically. And I, you know, so far people go for it. So, you know, it's working out for me. And, you know, and like you know, it makes me able to pay bills, stay in this apartment that I've lived in my entire adult life and, you know, be able to travel and take classes and do all the things that I want to do. But I mean, as far as like, we're never going to get rich off of this, you know, I mean, there might become a time where, you know, I might get a small part on a TV show or something like that. And that might hold me over for a couple months. But I mean, it's not like that with independent film. But, you know, honestly, like, as long as I feel like I'm getting paid what I'm worth, and I'm having a really good time. Like I always have such a good time on sets. Like no matter what crazy stuff is going on, this person didn't show up, this is happening. Like the card for like the movie is like, you know, like corrupted, like anything could happen. And I'm still like a pig rolling and shit, having a great time. Like literally, like I said, it's so addictive. And, you know, as long as I'm getting paid enough to be there to take off from my other stuff and make the time to memorize the lines and do all of that stuff, do all my homework, then I'm totally for it. You know what I mean? I'd rather struggle and be happy than have it. Like, I worked at a salon for a while and it was absolutely terrible for me. Like, I'm not a 9 to 5 kind of girl. Like, I'm never going to be that. So I'm going to do all this other stuff, you know, that I can do being creative as far and as long as I possibly can before I go back to some kind of work like that, because that's just not for me. Like, it makes me very unhappy and I can't get down with it. You know what I mean?
Cool. Good answer. How many movies have you guys made together? And Jessa, you're getting to be like Donald's De Niro to his Scorsese. You know what I mean?
Well, gosh, thank you. That sounds really cool. I
Yeah,
don't know
we've
how
done
many
4
movies
together. We've done 4 together,
Okay.
4.
and we're getting ready to do 5 and 6 this fall.
There we go.
We're doing 5 next month, and we're doing number 6 in November, December.
Yep.
I just saw Debbie Does Demons again today, and I loved it again. And any fun recollections of filming that movie? And like, how many days did that take to shoot?
Well, that movie was had about 3 primary days of shooting, but then there were also days where we had second unit sequences shot. So the primary second unit sequence was an extra day, and then we had 2 other second unit directors that each took a day to do their parts. So I guess 6 days total.
It's pretty good. How many days with you, Jessa? 4 days or all days or?
Well, I shot in 2 segments for that. So I shot the beginning with a really cool guy named Josephus that was in the beginning. He was a wrestler. He's passed away. The movie was actually we put in a dedication to him, so I thought that was really cool. But he's actually the one that inspired me to quit like doing bullshit jobs that like make me unhappy and really go for the acting thing, because he spent the weekend with me one weekend and he was telling me that his goal was to go full time with acting. And I said this out loud and I felt stupid immediately, but I was like, do you really think you can do that? Like I thought, like, that's crazy. Like, is that possible to do that? But then I realized, like, you know, he had been wrestling and he was used to the hustle of like trying to make money for performing. And it really inspired me. And it made me like, I was like, well, if he can do that, like I can do that. You know what I mean? Like, why don't I do that? But yeah, we shot that segment first, and that was a lot of fun. And I got to make out with him a little, which was really nice. And then the second time we shot, that was only like an evening. And then the second time, I think it was 2 days. Was it 2 days in a row?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 3 for me.
Your agony shall be prolonged until you plead for your death. Your eyes, messengers of evil, shall be burned from their sockets. Your tongue, poisoned by 1,000 blasphemies, shall be torn from your mouth. Prepare to meet your mother in hell.
Because we shot your first day at Mount Olivet Cemetery in Nashville, and then we did the other 2 days about a year later, and we shot those in the Cave City, Kentucky area near Mammoth Cave in an Airbnb we rented.
Watching Shark Exorcist last night and Debbie Does Demons like in a row and something else in a row, I was like, man, Donald loves to shoot in cemeteries. Like, you love, but does that go back to your love of old school like horror, or is it just like such an easy location to just get away with no permits and stuff?
Well, I don't want to shoot in just any cemetery per se. I'm interested in shooting in very picturesque cemeteries that have a lot of visual appeal.
Oh, yeah.
So, before I picked out the cemetery where we shot Debbie Does Demons, I did a Google search for the most historic cemeteries in Nashville. And I found out that the oldest cemetery in Nashville wasn't the best looking. The one I picked out was the second oldest, but it actually had the most impressive monuments. And so, yeah, I'm looking for cemeteries that have very elaborate, over-the-top monuments, like you might find in Hammer horror movies or in European cemeteries. And also in Shark Exorcist, we shot at a New Orleans cemetery, and New Orleans is famous for incredible looking mausoleums and everything. So, and the mausoleums in New Orleans are a completely different look than what you'd find in Tennessee. So, yeah, I'm interested in cemeteries if we can shoot in a really visually interesting one. Probably the most famous cemetery I shot at was when I made this Misty Monday movie in Paris 23 years ago. We shot at Père Lachaise, the cemetery where Jim Morrison and Francois Truffaut are buried. So that's probably the most famous cemetery we shot at.
What time of year was it when you shot Debbie Does Demons? Or was it cold, or was it hot, or?
It was, I think it was spring where we did most of it. So it was just, moderate. It wasn't really cold and it wasn't really hot. It was just sort of like, 70s, pleasant.
Plus, I wasn't wearing anything, so it's not like I was going to get overheated.
That's why I was asking, because I was just wondering if you got cold.
No, I didn't get cold at all.
I was impressed that you were like naked right off the bat, and then I was like, wow, is she ever gonna not be naked? And then not that was a problem, but I was just like, Jesus Christ, they're really going for like the whole movie with and it was awesome. But they should make like a doll of your character with like the hood and stuff. That would be rad.
I would love that. That would be so amazing.
Or to see somebody.
Yeah,
like
I mean, Jessa's look in Debbie Does Demons was basically inspired by Lena Romay, Jess Franco's wife, in the movie The Female Vampire, which is also known as the Bare-Breasted Countess. In that movie, she wears a floor-length cape with a hoodie, and all she wears besides that is a big, thick belt. And she walks around through the entire movie just dressed in this long cape and the hoodie and the belt. And so we didn't go quite that extreme. We have Jess actually wearing bottoms instead of just going with a belt and nothing else.
No.
But that basically was the inspiration for Jessa's look in this movie.
What can you tell us about Darby's dream house? But first of all, did you guys see Barbie? And
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I want Donald's opinion and then Jess's. Go. Okay, go. What you guys think?
Well, I really enjoyed the first 30 minutes of it, but then after that, I was instantly thinking of a much better storyline they should have had. If I'd been the writer of the Barbie movie, I mean, I thought the perfect storyline would have been when Barbie goes into the real world. She should meet some people in a poor neighborhood that don't live the glamorous kind of lifestyle she lives, and so she should get all the contractors and building people from her world that built her dream house, and she should send them all to this poor neighborhood and build each one of these people in a poor neighborhood their own private dream house. And I thought that would have been the perfect way to end the movie if she decides to do this urban renewal campaign and giving everybody their own individual dream house. So if I'd been writing it, that would have been how I would have gone with it.
And Jessa, what'd you think?
Well, first of all, I just think that's great. Like, that's like Barbie as Peter Pan or something. That's a wonderful story. And that should be part 2. But okay, so I had been avoiding spoilers the best I could for weeks because like I stay so busy traveling and working and doing movies and stuff. And it was like, oh my God, I really want to see it. So finally I got to see it. And I cried like 5 times. Okay, so let me just say, growing up, we lived in a 3-bedroom house, a very just normal house. I had a bedroom, my mom had a bedroom, and then I had a Barbie room. Okay. And so like I had multiple dream houses that like we had like sought out from different periods of time. I had like a really cool huge bus from the 70s that I'd roll around. It was like yellow. Like I love Barbie. Like if my house is a mess right now, or I'd show you like all the Barbies that are like literally lining my walls. I have a Barbie dream house from the 70s over here. Like it's a bit like I know her last name. I know her friends. I know every cousin that she's ever like that's ever been produced. Like, and I'm also a toy collector. So it's just like, It was really touching, especially the part where she actually meets the creator. Like that, like I went home and later that day cried again because like I loved it so much. So I'm so excited to be working on Darby's Scream House because like not only is it like the Barbie movie meant so freaking much to me and it really touched me, and I love the message of it too. Like I love the goofy, like it's feminism, but it's like palatable. You know what I mean? Like it's like if everybody can get down with it, I feel like, except like some crazy people that said like it'll make your balls shrivel up or something if you see it too many times. You saw that? I saw that. That was crazy. But anyhow, like I'm pink everything. I'm a Barbie nutcase. So to be able to play this part is like pretty much the most exciting thing I think I've done so far. Like I've been like making AI art, like Donald will tell you, like I've been like staying up late at night thinking about like how it could go and like who should play what, and like Mid should definitely be a redhead because that's who she is, like in the the toy like story of it all. But it's just I'm super excited. I don't know what else to say. Like I'm super excited about it, and I don't think I've been this excited about any other project that I've done.
Nice.
Yeah, Jessa has so many good ideas that we're actually coming up with a story for Darby Screamhouse together. So we're kind of co-writing it. I talk to Jessa and she gives me her ideas, and then I kind of merge her ideas with my ideas before I start writing scenes. And so we're both going to be mutually responsible for the storyline of Darby Screamhouse.
So it does.
I did recommend a scissoring scene because every person that plays with Barbies, there's only like one kin for like 30 Barbies. So the Barbie scissor, you know what I mean? Like I think there should be a little bit of a scissoring scene. If you ask me.
Darby's going to be a little bit kinky. We sort of suggest in the early scenes of this movie that Darby would much rather be hooking up with her teddy bear friend than with Ben. So Barbie is like very welcoming of toys of all persuasions.
And from the title it says Scream House, so we're going to see some blood in this thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Darby is going to go psycho and she's going to go on a murder spree, but to her way of thinking, she's fully justified in murdering people right and left. She doesn't do anything that she doesn't have a darn good reason for.
Right.
Wow. And when
So if you're a fan of Darby, when you watch this movie, you'll probably be on her side, and every time she kills somebody, you'll be cheering her on. We want people to cheer her on and be on her side when she goes on this murder spree. We don't want you to look at Darby as a villain. We want you to look at Darby as a justified hero.
Nice. And when can we expect this movie to be completed?
Well, we're shooting in November, December. Then we'll just jump right onto post-production, have it all ready by March. And then even though it may take a while, usually it takes at least 6 months for a distributor to get these things out. But because there's so much excitement about Darby Screamhouse, I'm planning to immediately start scheduling some theatrical showings so people can see it in a theater before we have the eventual Blu-ray.
That's exactly like my next question is basically, exploitation is about exploiting something that is popular to piggyback off financially. And obviously that's what you're doing with this as well, but it's obviously like a parody or your version of it. Can you talk about that, just the art form of that?
Well, I'm amazed that I'm so far the first one who's publicly announced that I'm doing a Barbie tribute movie with a horror spin. I thought there would be dozens of people doing it by now. I mean, right after Cocaine Bear came out, there was a dozen movies that are riffing off of it. There's a Raccoon, and
I'm in that.
so many different movies that are riffing off of Cocaine Bear. So you would think that there would be also dozens of movies by now riffing off of Barbie, but we're very proud that we're the first one. If there are others, we're going to be leading. Jessa and I are leading the pack.
Yeah.
And I've already mentioned the Darby movie to a few distributors, and they just go batshit over the title and the whole concept. They're acting like, oh gosh, why didn't we think of this? But to me, it was just the most obvious thing in the world. Where you have Barbie is the biggest movie in several years, making over $1 billion at the box office. Of course, it's going to lend itself to exploitation indie spoof or whatever.
Donald, you're a master at fusion, aka vampire cop, shark exorcist, cannibal hookers. Where do you get your wacky ideas from? Where does your genius mind? How does it?
Well, from the very first feature-length movie I did, I was a very strong believer in having a very marketable title. And so I'm a big believer in concept titles where the title sort of tells you the story. I think when you're making a low-budget movie and you can't afford big stars, it's more important than ever that the title do a little bit of your selling for you. So when I made Cannibal Hookers, which was my second movie, that's a case where the title tells you the story. It tells you exactly what you can expect. Same with Vampire Cop and Shark Exorcist. A lot of my titles are concept titles. One thing I really hate to do is use a generic title that doesn't tell you anything. I mean, you can get away with that when you have huge stars. And then, for example, Wes Craven can get away with making a movie and calling it Scream, which tells you absolutely nothing about the movie because he had huge stars and he had a big budget. So that's fine when you have huge stars. You can have these titles that tell you absolutely nothing about the movie. But when I'm doing a movie, I want the title to tell you a little bit about it where you know what to expect. In fact, in cases where I've dealt with investors who insisted on them coming up with a title, it would just, really irritate me. I did a movie where we had Robert Zadar from Maniac Cop, but my producer insisted on naming the movie and he wanted to call it Deadly Memories, which I told him, is the most awful title in the world. I mean, it's already, if you look on YouTube, on eBay, there's already several paperback books named Deadly Memories, so it's not even an original title. And it doesn't tell you really anything about the movie. It was a movie about murders happening in an auto body shop, so I wanted to call it the movie Body Shop, where, you would just get the idea of that. But, I just despise generic titles. That's one of my pet peeves. I think you've got to, when you're working at our budget level, you really need to do yourself a favor and have a concept title that does a little bit of your selling and marketing for you.
And does the concept title, does that help sell it as well?
Well, the most important thing a concept title does is it helps get the interest of a distributor and gets a distributor gung-ho about releasing the movie and licensing the movie from you. And then therefore it translates right down the row. And, back before video stores all went out of business, where every little town in America had a video store, it was really important to have titles that would pop out at customers on the shelves. So when they were looking at all these new releases on the video store shelf, you would have a title that would grab their attention. Nowadays, it seems like video stores are almost going extinct. All the video stores are now gone, and every town now, instead of having a video store, they've got a vape shop. So it's sort of a sad world we're living in.
That's true to some people. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see. Donald, did you ever see any films on 42nd Street, and what did you see, and how crazy was it?
Yeah, the very first time I ever went to New York City was in '84, and during my visit, I went to see two movies on 42nd Street. I mean, I was mainly in New York for my first visit to hook up with my friend Buddy Cooper, who was the director of the movie The Mutilator. And so Buddy was having the New York premiere of his movie The Mutilator on 42nd Street. So after I got together with Buddy at his apartment and took a bunch of photos for my fanzine, The Splatter Times, then I obviously went to see his movie on 42nd Street. That was and then the second movie I saw on 42nd Street was directed by another friend of mine, Richard Haynes, and it was a movie he made for Troma called Splatter University. So those were my two 42nd Street experiences. And then I also, on my second trip to New York in '85, I also went to a movie theater that was almost 42nd Street. It was basically at the end of 42nd Street, but technically it was on 8th. So technically it was on 8th and not 42nd, but it was just basically across the street from 42nd. And I went to see the notorious movie Salo, 120 Days of Sodom, directed by Pier Paolo Pasolini. So I got to see that on a big screen.
Was there anybody jerking off in the theater or smoking dope or having sex?
No, there was very few people there, very few people there. Then one time, then a few years later, I was in Paris, and there was a theater in Paris also showing it. So I got to see it in a theater a second time. But yeah, it was always usually a very moderate crowd. I didn't see a packed house for either showing of Salo, but the audience both times was very, very well behaved.
Have you seen Salo, Jessa?
I have not, no.
I've always called it Salo, so I've just been schooled by the master here. So, but yeah, it is. some consider it like the most fucked up movie ever made, and I would pretty much agree with that 100%. People are eating shit and they're forcing little. Right, Donald? Am I?
Yeah, but of course, what makes it special is that despite how fucked up it is, we've got it being made by the director who made one of the most acclaimed religious films ever made. He made The Gospel According to St. Matthew, which was praised by no less than Billy Graham. I mean, the art direction of Salo was done by the same guy who did Visconti's The Leopard, one of the most highly praised foreign language films of all time. So you had this very esteemed group of people. They had music by Ennio Morricone, one of the greatest composers in the world, who did all the Clint Eastwood westerns. And so you had really a group of the most highly respected filmmakers in Europe all got together and made this crazy movie.
It's amazing, and I put it in the top 3, the holy trinity of most fucked up movies of all time. I don't know what order, but Salo being one, Irreversible.
Oh my God, I knew you were
Irreversible
going to say
being the second one, and then the third one is a Serbian film. Have you seen that one?
I've
I've seen all 3.
Oh, Jessa, you have to see it like immediately. You'll
I saw Irreversible, and I seriously was fucked up for 3 months. Like, if they're anything like that, I do not want. I'm not interested. Like,
Jessa, you don't want to see a Serbian film. Do not watch it.
Okay, I won't, because I don't like. I was like, I don't know. Like, I had trauma from that movie, and I watched it. I was super wasted. I was drunk and super stoned. And still, it like broke through and like scarred my mind for so long. Like, I always tell people, do not watch that movie. It's actually brilliant. Don't get me wrong. Like, it was totally well done. And like, you definitely were, hooked to the screen. But like, I mean, I'm not trying to experience trauma with my movie watching. I like to escape from reality and have a good time, not be, scarred for life.
I saw it at the New Beverly Cinema, Stuart Gordon night, and Stuart said it's the scariest movie he's ever seen in his life, and Stuart showed it, and I love it, but they also showed it reversible. They showed it in order recently.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
But the director of Irreversible, Gaspar Noé, he just made a new movie with Dario Argento called Vortex, which is one of the most, emotionally involving and touching movies about an aging couple. And it's a movie that just really wins you over. And it's like a tearjerker where, when Dario Argento dies, I was just getting all choked up. I was so involved in the movie. So it's
don't
like
tell
a
me
genuine.
too much about the movie. I haven't seen it yet. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah, but I mean, Vortex is just
that.
like Vortex. His new movie is just like, there's absolutely nothing offensive in it. It's just like an old-fashioned tearjerker that you just fall in love with these characters, and then if anything bad happens to them, you're just fucked up.
Oh yeah, Jessa, Murdercise looks awesome and is getting rave reviews. Was that a fun movie to make, and did all the girls get along?
Yeah, that was super fun. Like I said, like anytime I'm on set, if there's like any problems or anything, like I'm just like, I don't even know what's going on. Like, I'm having so much fun. It was hot as shit. Like, I will say, like, we did this in like a office building that was just like, open. So there wasn't like stuff in the room. So we could do like, and I choreographed that, by the way. So you can't get a choreographer credit on IMDb, but I'm letting you know now, I was the choreographer and I'm very proud of that. And I did it last minute. But anyhow, it was so hot in there because it was like a heat wave in Modesto. And also, like, you can't have the air conditioner on while you're filming because it can be so loud and mess up the sound. I mean, you know this. It could mess up the sound. So, and the air was not on before we got there. So it was like a sauna in there. But even with that said, it was so fun. Like, everybody was like really cool. Like, I've like become really good friends with like everybody on set. I feel like it was just the right combination of people and the director and just everybody on board that it like really brought out, like, because I do stand-up comedy now too, and I really enjoy whenever I get to be funny. Like, I mean, I like to be serious too, of course. I like to play all kinds of different parts in movies, but anytime I get to do kind of like a horror comedy, like, that really tickles my fancy. And so like, that was like, I really got to flex, I feel like, with that. The scene where I'm going off about someone's gonna look at my kids, I paid for these, like, that was completely improv. Like, they were just like, say whatever you want. And I just like, I was just, you know, got into Candy's head and I was like, this is what this bitch would say. And it was a lot of fun. Like, I just really feel like I played off of everybody that was in the room. And I just had such a good time. And I really had a good time, like being able to do the choreography, you know, even, you know, like I grew up dancing and I know it's not like the ballet, but you know, it's nice to be able to flex that muscle every once in a while whenever I have a chance. And so I was really, really honored when they asked me to do it. Like the day before. So I was like, yeah, I gotcha. I'm like, no problem. But that was a lot of fun. But I will be honest, like I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen the final product because I have kind of this ritual where I watch all of my movies with my best friend Leslie. Because like I'm afraid like I take myself too seriously if I'm just seeing myself by myself. Like I'm like, oh my God, what was I looking at? Like my lazy eye is off to the side. Like what is going on? But like if she's in the room with me, we can kind of laugh at me, you know, and then she'll be like, I really like this part. Like, I really feel like your acting's growing. And, you know, she can give me feedback and like, but we can also laugh too together. Whereas like, if I'm by myself, like, I'm afraid I'd be too critical. So we haven't had a chance to sit down and watch that one yet, but I'm super pumped and I really want to see it. And I mean, it was just a really fun project to be a part of. Like, I don't know, like I'm really, really proud of that one. And I can't wait till I can get some copies so I can sell at conventions because like, I'm sure, you know, I do conventions and it's a really fun time. And I think that will be a really hot seller.
Where sort of, is it available now? Is there some place that?
Yeah, there's two places you can rent it, but the one that I do remember and I actually have like a digital copy, but I'm lazy. I'm not going to put it on a jump drive and put it in the, you know, like do all that stuff, put it in the smart TV. So I'll probably just rent it and just give them a little money. But you can rent it on Amazon Prime right now. And like, that's how most of my friends have been watching it.
Donald, have you seen it yet?
No, I didn't know it was on Amazon Prime, so I'm going to have to check into it.
Before Murdercise, did you see Death Spa or Killer Workout or any of the exploitation exercise movies to prepare you for your role?
I did not, but I feel really in touch with the whole 80s look. Like I've watched a lot of like dance movies from the 80s growing up as a dancer. Like I was trying to find all the dance movies at the video store to watch. So I've seen like Flashdance and was Breaking 1 and 2. Like I like those. And so like I definitely like I knew the kind of vibe. And also my mom does this amazing impression of a Valley girl. So I grew up kind of like being able to do that and to tap into that. So I felt like I was Candy. like I totally felt like I was that part.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have to rent it tonight. I gotta do that. What's for both of you guys? What's next after Darby? Do you have any plans or what's going on now besides Darby? I guess or.
Well, we have another movie that Jess and I have been talking about called Maniac Cheerleaders. So that's a strong possibility to come after Darby because Jess and I have already been putting our heads together and talking about that.
Was it cheerleader plural or singular? Cheerleader?
It could be either way, but right now we're talking about Maniac Cheerleaders, plural.
There you go. Or you could just do both, you know, or you know,
Mhm.
back to back. You know, sort of like remember when they did King Solomon's Mines and Alan Quartermain and Lost City of Gold back to back? You could do or back.
With Richard Chamberlain and Sharon Stone.
Yeah, those are a blast. Those are fun. Those are fun. Do you guys anything else you'd like to add? Anything or that you got going on or that you want to promote?
Well, I'm producing these two anthology movies right now, Amityville Aliens and Alien Exorcist, where that's one thing I've been doing lately. These will be my third and fourth anthology movies where I put together a team of filmmakers all over the country, and in this case, all over the world. And I assign each one of them to do a segment for my anthology movie. My last anthology movie was None Dead, which just came out on Blu-ray a couple of months ago. And that one is where all the different stories are all about zombie or psycho nuns. So in this new one, Amityville Aliens, every story will be about an alien or aliens in Amityville. And then Alien Exorcist, all the stories will be about some sort of exorcism involving an alien or an alien who is an exorcist.
Hey, Jessa, what's like the number one kind of role that you're looking to play? Maybe that's outside of the regular exploitation thing. Your range is so vast that you can do drama, you can do the, you could do Animal House, or you could do the art house. You know what I mean? But so,
Yeah.
but what do you want, like, in terms of just fun? Like, oh man, I want to play a blind, or I don't know. What's your dream role?
I really, other than playing Darby, like that sounds awesome. And I really want to piggyback on what Donald was saying about the Maniac cheerleaders. So I grew up reading the R.L. Stine series, like the Fear Street and Goosebumps. I mean, like my mom couldn't get me off of those. And so like from the time I was in 3rd to 6th grade, I wanted to be a horror writer when I grew up. So my favorite of his series was the cheerleader series. And so I was obsessed with cheerleading. I became a cheerleader in elementary school because of the damn books. So like, I don't care about sports. Like I was like, I'm trying to be one of these cool cheerleaders. You know what I mean? Like the way he would describe them was just so awesome. And so like, I would love to be a part of a movie like that. But like completely aside from that, I want to play a detective. I know it sounds weird, but like I have been like, anytime there's like a role that comes up for a detective, I go out for it. And I think that like people sometimes they don't give you a chance because of some of the other stuff you've done. And I'm like, I mean, like I'm a serious actress. Like I take everything I do super serious. Like even if it's like a funny role and I'm playing it straight to get the laughs and all that, I still do my homework. I'm still taking classes on acting and everything. And I just really want to take I just want to do a professional lady detective role. Like I just think that would be so fun. I think also it's because like I love all of the detective shows that we all grew up with, like watching. I mean, like I started out with like watching like Dragnet on Nick at Night whenever I was like a little kid. I love my favorite genre of movie is in shows and everything is classic. Like, so if it's old and crusty, I'm watching it. You know what I mean? Like that's my type of thing. So I just really want to be serious, like I just want to play a serious detective.
Cool.
Bring out your inner Angela Lansbury.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome. God bless you. Thank you so much. You guys are
amazing. Thanks for
it's
having us
been
on.
lots of fun.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Rutherford. I'm going to be at Tucson Comic-Con this Friday, September 1st for the East Sierra Films Presents Masters of the Grind panel. We're going to be showing trailers, including the Masters of the Grind and the trailer, plus showing clips from and Masters of the Grind. Be there or be square.